Sohan, I gave you a remarkable introduction. There was a standing ovation, cheers, acclaim throughout the... There you are, my esteemed friend. Welcome. Thank you.
Mabuhay and good morning. Thank you for the invitation to this auspicious meeting, and it's good to be back in Manila, especially in February. When Congressman Pittenger invited me and my friend Dr. Dasgupta to speak today, we talked about how we wanted to split critical minerals, and so I'm going to talk about the lithium-ion supply battery chain, and Dr. Dasgupta will talk about semiconductors, which is one of his many areas of expertise. So again, my name is Dave McMurtry, and I am the CEO of the McMurtry Group, which advises and invests in clean energy companies, specifically in the lithium-ion battery supply chain space. Next slide, please. I am also on the board of NatBat, the National Battery Association, which is the largest trade group in North America, comprising 400 plus companies in the battery supply chain, all the way from extraction or mining through cell and component manufacturing, packing, and then finally end-of-life battery recycling. You can see from my presentation that we have just recently last week released a paper which I welcome you all to download at this URL, and if you don't have time or you can't see it at the bottom, please come find me and I'll give you my card with the URL on it. It's also not lost on me that when we were honored to have Ambassador Romualdez come visit us in Washington, D.C. At lunch, we handed out sandwiches and soft drinks, and we stood around and had a conversation, and compare that to the amazing hospitality we've had here, including dinner last night, that there are cultural differences at play. And I am going to continue pushing on and highlighting some of these cultural differences by starting with a pop quiz. I'm going to do something that's very non-Filipino, which is put you all on the spot with a pop quiz and invite you to shout out your answers. So I have two questions for you. Number one is, what metals are in lithium-ion batteries today? And please shout out your answers if you know. What's the metals that are in the battery that's in your phone or your car today? Louder, please. Lithium, thank you. Copper, yes, as a separator. What else? Cobalt, thank you. Another big one, actually mined here by this gentleman. Nickel, well said. And magnesium. Now, who can tell me from where are they mined? What countries do they come from? Nickel from this gentleman in Mindanao, I heard. Anybody else? From Chile, yes, lithium from Chile. Who else? There is some in China, yes. The Congo, well done. Much of the cobalt comes from Congo. Do you know that 75% of the world's cobalt comes from one province in the Congo? It's called Katanga. Also 15 major mines in that province. 14 of them are owned by China and one by Russia. Tells you about the squeeze. Nigeria, I heard over here, correct. Russia and Kazakhstan, correct. And how about there's one big country in Asia producing 50% of the world's nickel? Indonesia, yes, well done. Wow, this group knows more about batteries than most that I stand in, so congratulations to you. Next slide, please. Next slide, if you could present it, thank you. Let's dive right in. So thank you for being here today. It's an honor to discuss a topic that is not only critical to the U.S. economy, but as it's estimated, it'll be a $400 billion industry that employs 4 million people in about 5 years from now. It's a subject that's also critical to our collective future, the lithium-ion battery supply chain and its competition with China. Next slide. It is not well known, but the U.S. used to be the technology leader in batteries. In fact, the current leading company, CATL, is a spin-out, actually, from from a Hong Kong-based Robin Zheng, back when it was independent from China, and a good friend of mine, Bob Gallion, who led the efforts at GM. When GM refused to invest further in electric vehicles and battery R&D, they together started what was a spin-out of Amperex. They did it legally. They acquired all of the licenses, both from Japanese and American companies and universities. So as you see here, we can see that we can compete if, in fact, we make it a national strategic priority. This slide shows the beginning of the onshoring process. Next slide, please. Today, we're at the crossroads of the energy revolution. These batteries power the devices we use every day, from smartphones to EVs, and energy storage solutions. I live in San Francisco in California. A state this month had 3 significant announcements. Number 1, we achieved electricity sustainability, meaning that we powered all of our electrical needs using renewable systems, water and solar, etc. 2, the power needed by AI data centers actually exceeded what was expected, up to 5,000 terawatt hours. Number 3, last week we had a devastating fire that put down one of our biggest battery storage systems, meaning that after these great first 2 announcements, we went back to petroleum-based power systems to fill that gap. So the point of all this to say is we are in early days of energy transition. Next slide. Answering my earlier pop quiz is this graphic which shows the ludicrous global footprint of a single lithium battery cell. The battery in your phone or your car is composed probably, and you've answered all these already, lithium from Chile or Australia, cobalt from the DRC, nickel from Russia or South Africa, and manganese from Gabon or also South Africa. Now, these technical grade or crude metals are then almost certainly refined, as Carl Delfield taught us yesterday, certainly refined in China, before the anodes and cathodes are created in Japan and South Korea. Then the batteries are probably manufactured in your home country often, and certainly in the United States. But what is most laughable about this, what's not shown, is what happens to end-of-life batteries. End-of-life batteries are then crushed into the valuable part, it's called black mass, to be recycled. And guess where that happens? Shipped back to China for separation, recycling, and then ultimately refining to start this whole ludicrous process over again. You could argue that there is no other product that has such a laughable global footprint. Slide 7, please. So yes, China is the dominant player in the global supply chain, and the centralization of power creates vulnerabilities in global supply chains. China's dominance didn't happen by accident. It's an important point. Over the last 2 decades, China has made strategic investments to secure its position as the leader in the space. The Chinese government has provided substantial financial support, from subsidiaries for battery manufacturers to investments in mining and refining projects and around the world. Meanwhile, Chinese companies like CATL and BYD have become global leaders in battery manufacturing, such that China controls around 70% of the world's battery cell production. It's not a global playing field that we're on. This dominance gives China not only a significant economic advantage, but also political leverage. In fact, China's control over key parts of the supply chain mean they can impact global markets for energy storage and electric vehicles. They can shape the price of these materials, influence the pace of the energy transition, and even impact national security in the event of geopolitical tensions, as we heard Brent Sadler say earlier today. Next slide. Case in point, in addition to the previous sobering consumer product statistics, did you know that every modern soldier carries 12 watts of wearable batteries? Or that every F-35 has over 400 kilos of rare earth elements required for operation? Metals such as dysprosium and europium, ones that I struggle to even say, are in the supply chain along with nickel and cobalt and lithium, and totally under Chinese control. Next slide. There are clear risks when we rely too heavily on one country for essential technologies and resources. especially when that country has strategic and geopolitical objectives. Over-reliance on China for lithium-ion battery supply chains could have three big impacts. Number one, disrupting the energy transition. If we become too dependent on China, we risk delays or supply disruptions that could impede the global transition to clean energy. This would not only slow the adoption of electric vehicles, but also hinder the widespread implementation of renewable energy systems. Number two, increasing vulnerabilities to supply chain shocks. As we saw during the COVID pandemic, the global semiconductor shortage, as Sohan will talk about, supply chains are fragile. When a single nation controls a large portion of the supply chain, a disruption, whether through natural disasters, political tensions, or trade conflicts, can have global repercussions. For example, if China were to restrict imports of essential batteries materials, the entire clean energy sector could face crippling shortages. In fact, we're seeing at the end of December, China restricted graphite. What's graphite used for? The anode. You can't make batteries without graphite, and China is restricting those. Number three, undermining economic security. As we heard earlier today, the lithium battery industry is projected to be worth trillions of dollars in the upcoming decades. Losing control over the supply chain means handing over significant economic and industrial leadership to another country. This could stifle innovation, increase costs, and leave nations vulnerable to market manipulation. Next slide. The solution to this geopolitical challenge lies in diversifying the global lithium-ion battery supply chain. We need to strengthen supply chain resilience and reduce reliance in any one country, particularly China. So how do we do this? 4 ways. One of the most critical steps is investing in domestic production capacities. Countries like the United States, the European Union, and Japan, and others must ramp up investment in lithium battery manufacturing and mining operations. This involves incentivizing companies to build battery gigafactories, improving mineral extraction and refining capacity, and developing a skilled workforce capable of sustaining this rapidly growing industry. I've toured the Subic Bay Freeport zone, and I think it's an excellent candidate for multilateral investment and battery capacity build-out. R&D. Innovation is key to maintaining competitiveness. Governments and private sectors must fund R&D to improve battery technology, making them more efficient, cheaper, and environmentally sustainable. By advancing new technologies, such as new chemistries and formats, or recycling processes, countries can reduce their dependence on raw materials controlled by one nation. 3, diversifying chains. To mitigate risks, we need to expand sourcing efforts beyond China. Australia, for example, has vast reserves of lithium, and nations like Chile, the DRC, and Indonesia are important sources of cobalt and nickel. However, China has control over much of these resources through extractive rights agreements. Strengthening relationships with these nations and investing in ethical, sustainable mining practices that benefit the local population can help ensure a stable and diverse supply of materials. And then finally, number 4, international collaboration. It's why we are all here. Countries must collaborate to create a unified strategy that fosters competition, but also ensures cooperation. We've seen great strides with initiatives like the European Union's Great Deal, or the Green Deal, and the United States Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, which incentivizes green energy technology production and makes investments in clean energy a top priority. By working together, we can build a competitive global supply chain that doesn't allow any one nation to hold the cards. Next slide. So finally, in conclusion, lithium-ion batteries are not just fuel for the future. They are the foundation upon which our future energy and economic systems will be built. As nations, we cannot afford to leave this critical supply chain in the hands of a single player, especially one with strategic interests that may not align with our own. To compete with China, we must focus on diversification, innovation, and investment. By strengthening our own supply chains, developing new technologies, and ensuring that energy dependence is part of our long-term strategy, we can create a more resilient global marketplace, one that allows for healthy competition, minimizes risks, and accelerates the clean energy transition. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, sir. Dr. Stupa, we welcome you to